Hello people, welcome back to my channel. So hope you are enjoying the Python skill series so far. We are currently into the exploration of different visualizations and graphs in Seaborn library. So before this, we saw some of the other plots and we saw some of the correlation analysis which is done with the help of Seaborn library. Now in today's session, we'll be dealing with some of the important things when it comes to data pre-processing, and on the go what we'll be doing is we'll be doing some kind of outlier detection, not detection in fact, but we'll be handling that part with the help of Python, or Python will be internally doing that, and we'll be doing some outlier treatment of the data, and we'll see how we can do multiple regression fits into one particular canvas. So for that, or for this particular task, we basically require many columns and many values. So that will be a huge data set. So for that, I've again visited Kaggle, and from there I have this particular data set for which we'll be doing the discussion throughout this particular video. So that is nothing but the housing prices. So this particular data set is a typical housing structure in a particular US area, United States. So where you have different columns. So let's go through them one by one. So there are 81 different columns and there are many different entries in this. So that becomes a very tedious activity. So this is a very huge kind of data set that so far we are seeing. So before this we have just considered only very few data sets with not typically of a huge size, but which consist of certain numerical columns or typically few. But since this is a basis for outlier detection, we have considered this particular dataset. Again, the link of this dataset will be cited, or it will be posted in the description. So you can directly go and uh, get your dataset from that Kaggle website. So let's do the analysis. So you have some columns like MS subclass, MS zoning, then lot frontage, lot area, for which we'll be doing certain kind of operations, especially outlier detection. And then you have street, then alley, and you observe there are many empty values, that is NA values, uh, which were not put by the, or in fact it is hard coded, so it will be interpreted as NA, but there are some other values which are empty, so that will be NaN. And then there is a lot shape, land contour, utilities, lot config, land slope, neighborhood, condition 1, condition 2, building type, house style, overall quality, overall condition, year built, year remod, add, roof style, roof material, exterior first, exterior second, mass VNR type, mass VNR area, external quality, external condition, foundation, basement quality, basement condition, basement exposure, basement fin type 1, fin SF1, fin type 2, SF2, unit SF, total basement SF, heating QC, central air, electrical first SF, second first SF, and there are many things. So this can be considered like there are total 81 different columns. So you can see the slider down how it is moving. So this is a typical large housing area in a US, not only in US, especially in European countries. So you can see like wherever you build a like unique plot or villa, there you can have all these things like car parks, an area for garage, car wash and stuff like that. So you have many different entities or attributes to look into whenever you buy that particular area. So this is mainly requires a domain knowledge of some real estate kind of stuff. So a real estate person who is very much known about like what is the typical area size, and what are the other factors that are contributing, how the climate change will affect the area and stuff like that. So you require certain kind of domain knowledge in order to do this analysis. So that can be done with the help of a real estate expert who works in this particular area. So then only you can do certain kind of outlier removal. Else, outliers are not always a threat to your analysis or model construction, but you should get the uh, expert advice like which outlier to keep or which outlier to remove, because outlier can sometimes be an anomaly, or it can be sometimes a interestingness measure which can derive many different qualities, and by chance if you just eliminated them, then you won't get any particular result for an analysis. So that is one important thing where the domain knowledge comes into picture. So whenever in any fields in data science activities you have finance data or you have market basket stuffs, especially in these areas you require expert knowledge in that particular area, like to which columns to consider and how to do the statistical analysis so that it can derive certain business value. So that is the major goal whenever you do kind of regression analysis, or any plots which you do without this would be meaningful or it will not be fruitful for our analysis. Means you cannot do any kind of justification or judgment, so that will not ultimately derive any business value. So that is the major goal of this discussion. So if I just go to the end of this, you can see there are 1461 entries, and we can see there are many columns which are hand typed or somehow it is typed. So let's not waste time any further and just go on to our discussion. So in this discussion, we have two agendas mainly. First, we have the outlier removal, how we can remove the outliers, and then we have to plot the subplots. So first, what we do is we import the pandas library, and we require a Seaborn library for doing the subplot. So that will be in the later part. So first, our major focus is on outlier removal. So then we'll be somewhere using a matplotlib .pyplot as PLT, although we have not did a separate section on the matplotlib, but this is somewhere it will be used intermediate for doing some tweaks in the code. So there we mainly require matplotlib. So here is a small introduction of matplotlib. So we are importing the matplotlib.pyplot as PLT, and then if you can see this matplotlib inline, so this is nothing but this particular line is written because whenever you do any matplotlib kind of plots or visualizations onto your notebook or anywhere, Jupyter notebook or Google Colab, anywhere, sometimes due to the version or by some any other reason, it would happen like your graphs won't display or you won't be able to see it on the screen, but it would be internally generated but it would not be visible. So in order to do that, you have to write this particular line, that is percentage matplotlib inline. You can check this for more details like what it does actually. So uh, let's do our main thing. So first we are reading the CSV file and we are doing a head, so we get some kind of rows, 10 rows, and as we said we have 81 columns, and if we just want to have a quick glance of how much size it is, so for that we have something df.shape. So we have 1460 rows or records entries, and correspondingly we have 81 columns. So this is the shape, and if you want the size, uh, it is something like this. So that two quantities when just multiplied you get this thing. So that is the volume of the data set which you have in your hand. This is very small as compared to real life projects, but just for our understanding, this is like we'll do smaller kind of baby steps and then we'll understand how the data set will actually grow and how it will impact your analysis. Okay, so now what we do is, since we said we have 81 different columns, so we haven't encountered these many columns before in our analysis purposes or in any other sections, what we'll do is we just see what are the different columns that are available. So if you remember df dot columns, we have somewhere done in the past in pandas discussion, where it was used for renaming the columns. So if you write this df dot columns, it will basically list all the columns, and if you want to rename, you have to do the certain kind of slicings or other operations, and then you put the other columns which you did from pre-processing. So these are the different kinds of 81 columns that are available. Internally, these are stored as objects. As you can see, the D type is object but not strings, but that is not a problem for us. We can do it, we can handle it for our processing. Okay, so first what we want to do is we want to do a bivariate analysis. Bivariate means there will be two variables which will be involved in the visualization process. So two variables are like to check the dependency between the lot area and the price of the house. So lot area, if you just look into this, you can see there is a lot area column, that is this column. So it has many kind of numeric entries. So we want to see this with the sale price. So sale price, if uh, sale price is somewhere here, yeah, this one. So we are doing a kind of dependency check between whether, if the lot area increases, does it have an impact on the sale price of the house. So in the real world, this kind of thing is very much important, because if larger the area is there, then accordingly the sale price or the price of the house will increase accordingly. So that is simple math, or in the real world that kind of thing is observed. So we want to do that kind of analysis, or how we do that, or how we model that kind of dependency in python. So for that, we have to do certain pre-processing, and then we'll do that. So before that, we'll just do a simple plot. So that is nothing but we'll do a regression plot, rec plot. So rec plot we have seen in the previous session. In one of the session, we saw about, we gave an introduction of the regression plot. So regression plot is between say we have on the x-axis we want the lot area, and on the y-axis we have sales price. We are taking the data from the df, and here I am putting a color that is purple. If you don't put, it will give you the default coloring what is there internally. So that is not our discussion. uh, when I run this, you get this beautiful pink kind of visualization plot. And on the x-axis you can see the lot area. So that is basically binned into 25,000, 50,000, 75,000, 1 lakh, 1 lakh 25, 150k, 175k, and 200k. So you have these value ranges, and on the sale price you have everything from 0 to 1. And then you have this kind of all the points which are there in between. And then regression plot, basically from the name itself, it is obvious that it will fit a regression line. And you can see that there is a thin line that is passing, but there is one problem, that since most of the points are centered over in this particular area, the place where I'm hovering my mouse, but your line is somewhat not covering all of the points, or majority of the distributions are not explained by this. Means there will be a larger kind of variance, or it could be like due to outliers, it is not distinguishable, or we want to sample the data points in such a way that we want our distribution to fit this. So there are many kind of things that are causing this distribution to look like this, or this particular plot to look like this. So a quick fix that we do is we do an outlier treatment. So that is with the any data set, any numerical columns when you get, or if you have any different kinds of other representations than you expect, you basically do an outlier treatment. So how do we basically do that? So what we do is on the lot area column. Since we have lot area, okay, so this is my lot area. In this lot area, what I'll do is I'll do an activity. So this is to check uh, whether how we can see different kinds of outliers are present. So this basic statement, that is now this outlier removal or outlier detection is done on one particular column, not on the entire data set. So that is one brief reminder that I want to give. So this outlier treatment is with respect to one particular column, that is this column. And to that I'm passing a function or applying a function that is a quantile. So quantile is, as you can see, quantile returns values at the given quantile over requested axis. So basically you pass a list of different percentiles. So these values, you can see that is 0.5 is nothing but 50 percentile, that is the median value. Then you have 95th percentile, 95, and then you have 99 percentile. You might think like which values to put. These values here are the standard values which are followed in any organizations or any analysis purpose, whether it's in testing domain or whether it's in data analysis purposes or anywhere you have this certain kind of ranges. So obviously in the real world, if you tell like what value of the lot price will cause like to predict what will be the sale price, or if I just put in a better way, like if I give a lot price, then what will be the sale price? Obviously you won't have a straightforward answer to give, that is a single value. So instead what you do is you provide a range, so range of different values. So with range, what you can have is you can have a better idea of in what and what range it would approximately fall. So if I simply ask a question like based upon the current weather condition, what is the time? Just don't look at the clock, but just by looking at outside the window, what will be the current time according to your current time zones from wherever you are watching. So you would probably you give a right answer, but not always it's possible. So like you basically can give a range, an approximation, but it's not always right. So similar is the case with here. So instead of doing one particular analysis, you basically do on the median value, that is the 50 percentile, 95th percentile, and 99 percentile. So this is basically done in order to remove the outliers, and these values, that is floating values, are nothing but the percentile. So what I want to do is on the lot area, I want to find all the lot areas that is less than 0.5. Okay, so before that, on what analysis did I do that activity? If I run this, I get this particular count values. So on the 50th percentile, that is on the median, that I get 9478.50 as the outliers. If you compare with all these data sets, this is less than 10,000. It's not that high, but see, in the organizations or in the real world, we don't go for 50th percentile. We instead go for 95 confidence interval, or something like 0.95. So these things are very much useful. So any statistical evaluation or for any Z transform techniques, we basically go for 95% confidence interval. So what value does 95 percentile confidence value has, that matters us to the most. So if you look at this particular 0.95 value, its value is 17,401 point some 15. So that is very large, and even at 0.99, that is the 99th percentile, it is 37,567.64. So these numbers are a very much threat to our analysis. So that is the reason, because that our regression line that we are fitting, it's not passing through all of the points. So somewhere we have to disperse our points onto this axis, so that not all the points, but majority of the points will pass through this regression fit. So that is our major goal. So in order to do that, what I do is I do a filtration. So filtration on the df lot area column. So I create a new data frame, that is df filt. So it is like this, and to this I'm passing the df.loc. So we are familiar with this, that is the label based indexing. And on the df lot area, I'm writing an expression like it should be less than a df lot area dot quantile of 0.95. So let us not do this first. We'll see what it happens with 0.5. So when I just run this, and if I just call df field, you can see these many entries it has plotted. And now what I do is I just plot this particular thing, and instead I'll just comment it out. And what I do is I'll just plot this. So whatever filtration that I have got, I'm now passing that as to my data. So here in this plot it was the original df, and now this is a filtered one. And if I just run this, I see that for the 50th percentile, you have most of the points that is passing through this, but in the initial there are much dispersion, but towards the end you can see like there are points that are having more variation in that particular axis. But our point of discussion is not for the 50th percentile. As we mentioned, we want for the 95th percentile. So what I do is I run this with 95 percentile, and if I plot this, now we are talking. So here what we observe is, if you can see this very thin regression line that is passing in this. If I zoom little bit, okay. So if you see this very thin regression line that is passing, and if you see that is at the center, there is a majority of the portion of the data point that it's covering. So whatever point that you see that is not on the regression line, somewhere here in this area or below, those are basically outliers. So that is a resultant of what we did by this particular snippet. So this is how we do a regression fit in that particular direction which has the maximum variance. Now this especially comes whenever we do principal component analysis, so there will be talking in detail about this PCA. Obviously there is one video in PCA in my channel. If you would like to wish that, you can visit the machine learning playlist. So that is a different topic. So here this is the best fit line that will cover almost all of the data points. And if we do a 99 percentile, and if I run this rec plot again, you can see that there is not much difference that you can observe. But in the beginning you have all points clustered, but there is not a good dispersion of the points along the axis. And so that is the reason why we mainly go with 95, not below or not above. Below means that is 0.5, above means 0.99. So we have to get a value that is somewhere in between, that is 0.95. So for that we have this particular plot. So whenever our customer wants any kind of results or analysis, we mainly go with this particular plot, that is at the 95th percent confidence interval, that for these many values my regression line is doing a best fit for these points. So those values I can pick, and I can have a, or I can give a much justification that for this particular lot area my sales price is going up, or it has some kind of relationship. So that was the discussion for the outlier treatment. So these are the standard lines of code, or depending upon how you want to pre-process your data, this particular line of code will be helpful. So it's not always obvious that you can just remember this. So just make sure whenever you do any kind of activity, you have this hold of this particular snippet. Next, we move on to our second discussion in today's video, that is, we want to do the subplot. Now, our requirement is that we want to do the analysis of the sales price with the square feet. So, sales price we saw before. Now, what we want is we want the uh, SF. So SF is nothing but these columns, that is with the square feet. SF1, then you have SF2, unit SF, total, basement SF, like this. And there are other columns, but it's not in a contiguous way, it is somewhere interleaved, discontinuous. So we want to find that basically. So our major requirement for analysis is, does the sales price have any relationship with the square feet? Square feet means nothing but the area. So those are different terminologies. If you just search what is lot area and what is square feet, square feet is nothing but the area how much the housing is covering. Like, you have a certain excluding stuffs that is not included in square feet. So that is different story. So first what we do is, for this we require a subplot. So uh, basically we want to first get to know how many different columns are there. So how many different SF columns are in these 81 different columns that is classifying or qualifying for this square feet criteria. So for that, what I'll do is I'll run a list comprehension. So this is not new to you. You have already been learning this since from the beginning series, uh, from the foundations. So what I am doing is, since I ran this df dot columns, these are my columns, and from this I want to check what all columns contain the square feet. Square feet is identified by SF. That is a small domain knowledge which you get. So what I do is, I'll just print the values in df.columns whether the condition satisfies if SF. So that is a keyword that is there in this particular columns in val. I'm just printing this. So I basically get these many, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or you can do length of SF. So if you do length of SF, you get this, and if you just remove this, you get all the different columns that contains the SF. Now comes our main part. Now what we want to do is, we just want to do a simple analysis, like how this different SFs vary with the sale price, or does it have an impact for the further justification. So for that, what I'm doing is, I'm visualizing a subplot. So the first thing that you can see here, this is also not new to you. This we have already discussed. This is nothing but the nesting. So we have seen this nesting and unnesting in tuples and list. So that is the same thing that we go here, but this is with a function. So you can use, so that kind of flexibility is there in Python. So what I'm doing is, I want to uh, plot a figure and an axis. So these are the two things that is there by default. So matplotlib figure instance. So this we are taking from the matplotlib library, and there is one axis. So figure is just for plotting the figure, and axis is on which alignment we have to put them. And to that, this is PLT, that is the another module which is there from the matplotlib, and to that I'm passing a subplot. So then what I'm passing here, that is the number of rows that I want. So I want a canvas where I need to have 3 rows in a horizontal way, and vertically I want 3 columns. So that will be a, 9 entry matrix or a grid, something like that, corresponding to our length of SF, that is these many columns, and the figure size that I want is 10 by 10. So how big or large you want your plot, it basically defines by that. So when I run this particular line, what I can observe is, I get something like this, a passport size canvas, a small 10 cross 10 thing. So this will be 9 in number, corresponding to each of the SF that I have in sale price. So now our major requirement is, I want to fix one axis as my sales price. So sales price, I'll keep it as on the y axis. So everywhere on the y axis I will have sale price, and on the x axis what I will have is all of the different 9 SF that I got from this df dot columns. So now I want to do that activity. So how will I do that? So for that we have this particular line of code. So what I do is I do a for loop, or I create a for loop for I in range, that is 0 to length of SF. We know that is it's 9, but here it will run from 0 to 8, so that gives a count of 9. And for rows, what I'm doing is I'm doing uh, rows is equal to I, and this is a kind of uh, delimiting uh, for 3. 3 is for 3 corresponds to the rows, and this 3 corresponds to the columns. So if you remember, like we did this kind of things in the basics, very foundations. So that does nothing but say, if I have 0 3, if I run this you get 0. So that is basically this kind of operation, and then you have some modulo, so that returns the modulus. So these thing which I write here, that is basically for accessing each of these pictures. So consider like this is a zeroth row and this is a zeroth column, zeroth row and first column, zeroth row and second column, and then this is first row and zeroth column, first row, first column, first row, second column, and likewise for this row also. So for that I'm basically running this. So when I use this, it will basically start from 0 to 9, then it will end up to 8, and then it will accordingly print this. So if I just print this, you can see like these are the indexes: 0 0 0 1 0 2 1 0 1 1 1 2 2 0 2 1 2 2. These are nothing but this represents each of these 9 different uh, plot areas where our actual subplot will come. Basically subplot, this thing is called as a subplot, but inside this we paste a regression plot that we saw earlier. Now what I want is I want to pass the parameters, that is AX. So in AX what we do is we basically pass array of access objects. So these are basically access objects. I'm passing rows and columns to this. So that will give my index. So that will basically name this Y and this basic X axis, or it can be a single access object. So you can just pass only one when it's a univariate distribution, like you have the count plot or a dist plot. So with that also you can do this, but since we are doing a regression plot, we want these two. So that is array of access objects. So this is array, or you can consider the list also. And then what we are doing is I'm doing a plot, and to plot I'm calling for regression plot, that is reg plot, what we have done previously. And on the x-axis I want the sf of I. So sf of I, if I just call here, so I, let's put sf of 0, that is basement fin sf1, SF of 1, basement fin SF2, SF of 3, total basement SF. So those will be the names that will be coming on the x-axis. So I hope you got that why this is SF of I. So that is printing the name of that particular column of SF. And on the y-axis I want the sale price, and the data that I'm passing is data is equal to df, and this AX is nothing but the rows and columns, and color, that is an optional thing. So if I just plot this, you can see this beautiful purple plot that again we get from the distributions. So now our major thing is like we did the plotting. Now we want to do the analysis. Does the sale price have an impact on the basement square feet, or the square feet parameters? So if you see this particular first plot, that is 0 0 sale price with the basement fin SF1, you can see like there is a steep increase, that is a 45-degree line that is not passing, but there is some shift along the y-axis. So that is one interpretation, but this is not having a good distribution of the points. If you look onto the second plot, there is not increase. So there is not much coverage of the data points along this particular axis. so that is not a good. Here also the similar case for unit SF, there is some coverage but it's not steadily increasing. If you see here, there is a steep increase in the sale price of the total basement because it is much steeper as compared to this one. Similar is the case with first floor SF. At the base it's very much cluttered, so you have many cluttering and many overlapping of the points. For the second floor SF, you have some points covered here. This is a very bad plot that you can see, so this has not a good impact on the sale price. Similar is the case with this plot, that is 3-1 and 3-2. So these are some of the insights or some of the visualizations that you obtain from the subplot. So it is useful as per your requirement how you want to visualize your data. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you found this video helpful, please do like, share, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching this video.